Stop right there. I saw them stuffing their bags. You aren't leaving until I search them.
Excuse me, you need to back up. My children are not thieves. We are not opening any...
I know what I saw. You people think you can steal from me. Open the bag or I call the police.
Go ahead and call them, but check that camera.
You never know who you're messing with until it is too late. And for one grocery store owner, that lesson came with a $5 million price tag. Imagine being a mother who has spent years studying the law and teaching it to university students, only to have a stranger accuse your innocent children of being criminals, just because of the color of their skin. Most people would panic or scream or cry in that situation, but this mother did not do any of those things, because she knew exactly what her rights were, and she knew that the truth was hidden inside a small black box on the wall. Before we dive into this crazy story of justice served, I want to know where all of you are watching from today. Scroll down right now and drop your city or country in the comment section, because I love seeing how far these stories travel. It was a bright and sunny afternoon when Aaliyah decided to take a break from her busy schedule to spend some quality time with her two daughters, Susan and Patricia. Aaliyah worked very hard as a law lecturer at a prestigious university, where she taught young students how to fight for justice. But on this day, she just wanted to be a mom. The fridge at home was looking a little empty, and the girls had been asking for their favorite snacks all week. So Aaliyah told them to put on their shoes because they were going to the local grocery store. Susan and Patricia were excited because going to the store meant they might be able to convince their mother to buy them some sweet treats if they behaved well. They hopped into their family sedan and drove down the road with music playing and the windows down. When they arrived at the store, the parking lot was mostly empty, which was nice because it meant they would not have to wait in long lines. Aaliyah grabbed a shopping cart and the two girls walked beside her, chatting about school and pointing at the colorful fruits and vegetables near the entrance. They looked like any other happy family out for a normal day of shopping. However, from the moment they walked through those sliding glass doors, they were being watched by a pair of very judgmental eyes. Tracy was the owner of the grocery store, and she was standing behind the checkout counter with her arms crossed and a frown on her face. Tracy was the kind of person who did not like change, and she certainly did not like people she did not know coming into her shop. She had owned this store for many years, but lately, business had been slow, and instead of trying to improve her store, she blamed the people in the neighborhood. When she saw Aaliyah and her two daughters walk in, Tracy immediately felt annoyed. In her mind, she believed that having black customers in her store would make her other regular customers uncomfortable and drive them away. It was a terrible and unfair way to think, but Tracy convinced herself that she was protecting her business. She watched them as they moved from the produce section to the aisle with the cereals. Aaliyah was taking her time reading the labels on the boxes to make sure she was buying healthy food for her children, but to Tracy this looked suspicious. Tracy thought they were lingering too long, and she started to tap her fingers impatiently on the counter because she just wanted them to leave. The longer they stayed, the more angry Tracy became. She whispered to herself that they were probably not going to buy anything expensive and were just wasting her time. This anger started to boil inside her until she came up with a wicked plan to get them out of her store faster. Tracy looked around to make sure no one else was watching her. The store was very quiet, with only one or two other shoppers wandering around in different aisles. Tracy decided that she was not going to wait for them to finish shopping. She wanted a reason to kick them out right now. She stepped out from behind the counter and pretended to be straightening up some shelves, slowly moving closer and closer to where Aaliyah and her daughters were standing. Susan and Patricia were looking at a shelf of cookies, trying to decide which flavor they wanted, while Aaliyah was a few feet away looking at bread. Tracy saw her opportunity when the girls turned their backs to the cart for just a second to show their mother a box of chocolate chip cookies. With a quick and sneaky movement, Tracy reached into her apron pocket where she had hidden a few expensive items she had grabbed earlier. She walked past their cart, acting like she was just passing through, and quickly dropped the items into the girls' personal backpacks that were sitting in the bottom of the shopping cart. It happened so fast that nobody noticed. Aaliyah was looking at the bread, and the girls were looking at the cookies. Tracy walked away with a smirk on her face, knowing that she had just set a trap that was going to work perfectly. Tracy went back to the front of the store and waited. She watched them finish their shopping, and when Aaliyah finally steered the cart towards the checkout lane, Tracy put on her best angry face. She was ready to cause a scene. As Aaliyah began to unload the milk and bread and vegetables onto the belt, Tracy stood there staring at them without saying hello or offering a smile. Aaliyah noticed the rudeness, but decided to ignore it because she did not want to ruin the nice mood she was in with her daughters. But then, just as Aaliyah was about to pay, Tracy slammed her hand down on the counter and pointed a shaking finger at Susan and Patricia. Tracy announced loudly that she was not going to serve them because she saw the girls stealing. The store went silent. Aaliyah froze for a second, confused by what she just heard. She looked at Tracy and asked her calmly what she was talking about. Tracy raised her voice even higher so that the other customers in the store would hear her. She accused the two young girls of stuffing expensive items into their backpacks and trying to walk out without paying for them. Susan and Patricia looked at their mother with wide, terrified eyes because they had never stolen anything in their lives. They were good kids who knew right from wrong, and this lady was screaming at them for something they did not do. Aaliyah felt a surge of anger, but she pushed it down because she knew that getting angry would not help. She looked at Tracy straight in the eyes and told her that her daughters were not thieves, and that she needed to be very careful about the accusation she was making. Tracy laughed a mean, cold laugh and demanded that the girls open their backpacks right there in front of everyone. Aaliyah nodded at Susan and Patricia, telling them it was okay to open the bags because they had nothing to hide. The girls unzipped their bags with shaking hands. When they opened the bags, Tracy reached over and pulled out 2 expensive bottles of vanilla extract and a fancy jar of honey that were sitting right on top of their school books. The girls gasped in shock. Aaliyah stared at the items in disbelief. She knew her daughters had not put those there. They had been beside her the entire time. But Tracy looked triumphant. She crossed her arms and smirked, telling them that she caught them red-handed and that she wanted them out of her store immediately. She shouted that she did not want their kind causing trouble in her business, and that they were banned forever. This was the moment Tracy thought she had won. She expected Aaliyah to be embarrassed and to drag her crying children out of the store to avoid any more trouble. But Tracy made a very big mistake. She did not know that Aaliyah was a law lecturer who knew the rules of evidence better than the police did. Instead of leaving, Aaliyah stood her ground. She placed her hands on the counter and looked Tracy dead in the eye. Aaliyah told Tracy that they were not going anywhere. She stated clearly that those items were planted because her children had not touched them. Tracy tried to talk over her, shouting that the proof was right there in the bags, but Aaliyah raised her hand and spoke with a voice that was calm but powerful. She told Tracy that if she was so sure they stole the items, then she should have no problem showing everyone the security camera footage. She pointed to the black dome camera that was mounted on the ceiling, right above the aisle where they had been shopping. Tracy's face turned pale. In her excitement to frame them, she had completely forgotten about the cameras that recorded everything in the store 24/7. She suddenly realized that the camera would have seen her dropping the items into the bags. Panic started to set in. Tracy stuttered and said that the cameras were broken and that she did not need to show them anything because she was the owner. She tried to grab the items back and shoo them away, saying she would let them go this one time if they left right now. But Aaliyah was not going to let this go. She saw the fear in Tracy's eyes and she knew she had caught her. Aaliyah turned to the other customers who had gathered around to watch the drama. She asked them if they thought it was fair for a store owner to accuse little children of stealing without checking the proof. The crowd mumbled in agreement with Aaliyah. They wanted to see the truth too. Aaliyah pulled out her phone and dialed the police. She told the dispatcher that she was being harassed and falsely accused of a crime, and that the store owner was refusing to show the evidence. Tracy realized she was losing control of the situation. She knew that if the police arrived and saw that video, she would be in serious trouble. She decided she had to destroy the footage before the cops got there. Tracy suddenly turned around and started walking fast toward the back office where the security system was kept. She muttered that she was going to go check the tapes herself. Aaliyah knew exactly what Tracy was trying to do. She knew about spoliation of evidence, which is a legal term for destroying proof. Aaliyah moved faster than anyone expected. She stepped in front of the counter and blocked Tracy's path to the back room. She told Tracy that nobody was going into that room until the police arrived. Tracy tried to push past her, screaming that this was her store and she could go wherever she wanted. But Aaliyah stood firm like a statue. She told Tracy that if she went into that room and touched that computer, she would be committing a serious crime of tampering with evidence. The tension in the air was so thick you could cut it with a knife. The other shoppers saw what was happening and they stepped in to help Aaliyah. A tall man stood next to Aaliyah and told Tracy that she should just wait for the police if she had nothing to hide. Tracy was trapped. She stood there sweating, her eyes darting around the room, looking for a way out. She was cornered by her own lies. Susan and Patricia stood behind their mother, holding hands, feeling safer now that they saw their mom taking charge. Do you think Aaliyah did the right thing by blocking the owner? Let me know in the comments if you would have done the same. Minutes felt like hours as they waited. Tracy kept pacing back and forth, wringing her hands and glaring at Aaliyah, but Aaliyah just stood there with her arms crossed, waiting for justice to arrive. Finally, the sound of sirens could be heard getting closer and closer. Blue and red lights flashed through the front windows, and 2 police officers walked into the store. The officers looked at the scene. They saw a very angry store owner and a very calm mother with 2 scared children. Tracy immediately started talking, trying to tell her side of the story first. She pointed at the girls and said they were thieves and that she found stolen goods in their bags. She told the police that this woman was crazy and was holding her hostage in her own store. The police officer listened patiently and then turned to Aaliyah. Aaliyah spoke with the precision of a lawyer. She explained that they had been shopping, that the owner had been hostile from the moment they entered, and that the items were found in the bags but her children did not put them there. She told the officer that the only way to settle this dispute was to look at the security footage immediately before anyone had a chance to delete it. She emphasized that the owner had tried to run to the back room to destroy the tape. The police officer looked at Tracy and asked if they could see the footage. Tracy tried to make excuses again. She said she didn't have the password. She said the monitor was broken. She said everything she could think of. But the officer insisted. He told her that if she was accusing these kids of a crime, they needed the evidence to file a report. Tracy had no choice. Defeated, she led the officer and Aaliyah to the small back room. The officer sat down at the computer. The room was small and cramped. Tracy stood in the corner, looking like she was about to faint. The officer rewound the video to the timestamp when Aaliyah and her daughters were in the cereal aisle. Everyone watched the screen in silence. The video was clear. It showed Aaliyah reading a box. It showed Susan and Patricia looking at cookies. And then it showed Tracy. On the screen, Tracy looked around suspiciously. Then she reached into her apron. The camera caught the glint of the honey jar and the bottles. It showed her walking past the cart and quickly dumping the items into the backpacks while the family was looking away. The officer paused the video and looked at Tracy. The room was silent for a long moment. Tracy looked down at her shoes, unable to make eye contact with anyone. The proof was undeniable. She had framed 2 innocent children just because she wanted them out of her store. The officer stood up and told Tracy to turn around and put her hands behind her back. Tracy started crying, saying she was sorry and that she didn't mean for it to go this far, but it was too late for apologies. They walked out of the back room and the officer led Tracy through her own store in handcuffs. The customers who were watching gasped. They realized that the lady who owned the store was the real criminal. Aaliyah walked out with her head held high, holding her daughter's hands. She told the girls that she was proud of them for being brave and that the truth always wins in the end. But the story did not end there. Aaliyah knew that what Tracy did was not just mean, it was illegal. It was defamation, false imprisonment, and a violation of their civil rights. Aaliyah decided to sue Tracy and the store. She hired the best legal team she knew, although she could have easily handled it herself. During the court case, Tracy had to admit why she did it. She confessed on the stand that she thought having black people in her store was bad for her image. The jury was disgusted by her racism and her actions. They saw a mother and 2 children who were humiliated publicly for no reason. The judge was harsh on Tracy, explaining that her behavior had no place in society. The trial ended with a massive victory for Aaliyah. The court awarded her and her daughters a settlement of $5 million for the damages, the emotional distress, and the malicious nature of Tracy's actions. The amount was so high because the jury wanted to send a message that this kind of discrimination would not be tolerated. Tracy lost everything. She could not pay the $5 million, so she had to sell her store and all her assets. The grocery store that she was so worried about protecting was closed down and eventually sold to a new owner who was kind and welcomed everyone, no matter what they looked like. Tracy ended up with a criminal record and a ruined reputation, all because she let hate dictate her actions. Aaliyah used the money to set up a scholarship fund for underprivileged students who wanted to study law. She wanted to make sure that more people could learn their rights and stand up for themselves, just like she did. Susan and Patricia learned a valuable lesson that day. They learned that the world can sometimes be unfair, but if you stay calm, know your rights, and have the truth on your side, you can overcome even the nastiest people. This story serves as a powerful reminder to everyone watching. Never judge a book by its cover, and never underestimate a mother protecting her children. Tracy thought she was dealing with a helpless victim, but she was actually dealing with a warrior who knew the law. It cost her $5 million to learn that lesson. Before you go, make sure you share this story with your friends and family, because everyone needs to know that standing up for what is right is always worth it. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and follow for more incredible stories of justice. See you in the next one.